Welcome to 2023, everybody, and welcome to MS Confidential. I'm excited for another year of monthly gatherings and candid conversations about life with multiple sclerosis specifically, and then chronic illnesses by default. Elizabeth, I'm putting this on you. She wanted to start the year off with a little levity today. So we're hoping you'll all join us. We're kind of loosely calling it a funny thing happened on the way to the fill in the blank. And this is just the launching point. It won't necessarily always be funny. It doesn't have to be funny. It might be surprising, appalling, annoying. We'll discuss how MS or other chronic illnesses and their related symptoms played a starring role in these situations, what we've learned from them, and why they have been branded into our memories. It is especially important, we believe, to hear these stories that might never see the light of day or only maybe be shared with our most treasured confidants, because otherwise, nobody knows this stuff happens. Additionally, for our able-bodied listeners, perhaps it might make you think a little differently about your interactions with people living with chronic illness. As always, please chime in with questions and comments in the chat box. We love to hear from you. And I'm going to introduce Elizabeth Jameson first. She is the director of MS Confidential, artist, writer, patient advocate, and human extraordinaire. We have Kyle Cronick, who is currently studying for his master's in accounting with future entrepreneurship goals that I recently heard involved medicinal mushrooms. I want to hear more about that. We also have Annie Brewster, assistant professor of Harvard, practicing physician and founder of Health Story Collaborative. She has an incredibly important book out called The Healing Power of Storytelling. And and then me. I am the founder and director of Unfixed Media, and I loosely moderate these discussions over on MS Confidential. And my co-producer, Lisa Foote, is actually going to join us today in this fun, strange, slightly spontaneous conversation. So we're just going to dive in if you all are ready. And I know, Elizabeth, you have a funny story to share. In fact, I think you have a lot of funny stories to share, but I heard about one that happened on an airplane, and maybe we can dive in and hear about that one first.
I was on an airplane with my attendant, and we sat down, buckled our seats, and then the steward came and said, "I'm sorry, all handbags need to be put in the upper cabin." And I said, "That's my catheter bag. I can't put it. I'm happy to do it, but I can't. It's attached to me, and I can't reach it up to the upper level." And she said, "Excuse me, every handbag needs to be put up in the luggage bin." And I said, "No, no, I really, it's a medical issue. I can't put it up. It's a catheter bag." And she said, again, the same instructions. And finally she said, "Are you disobeying me? Are you
Yes,
refusing?" And then
unbelievable.
she said, "I'm going to call the police."
What?
And so the plane stopped. No one could do anything. And boy, the passengers were really mad at me. But there's nothing to do. So we waited an hour for all the police to come.
Oh,
And I thought, God, it was really, I just thought it was hysterical. And, it's amazing to be on the witness list or whatever. I thought it was kind of cool, the action, but when the police arrived, they took one look at the catheter bag, which is a bag full of urine,
Mhm.
and he said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And so we took off from the airport, but it was really funny to be called for the police. So that was pretty funny.
That
Only
is fun.
you would think that was funny, Elizabeth.
I know. I'm impressed that you can find humor. I mean, it is absurd, so absurd it's funny, but in the moment, I think I would have been so pissed.
Well, if you think you were pissed,
Right.
Were you at all pissed? I mean, was the humor mixed with some other emotions?
I thought the stewardess was young, probably didn't know what a catheter was. She was rushed and harried, trying to keep the plane on schedule. And so she thought I was disobeying her.
I'm sure she's never seen that before.
I'm sure that's right.
And
Can
the
I?
lack of exposure. Just talking about this last night. I was using my wheelchair last night out around town, and somebody saw me stand up. And they were like, "Did I just see you stand up?" Like, yes, I can sort of move my legs. I just can't walk.
What was that your response, or did you just?
Yeah, and I mean, it is just a lack of exposure. I mean, I think people just assume that if somebody's in a wheelchair, they are paraplegic, they're paralyzed, they got a
Right.
spinal cord injury or whatever. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I can stand.
Yeah, I've had some friends that are in the invisible illness category who end up using the handicap parking
Yeah.
spot, and they legitimately have their little sign, and they have been accosted when they get out of their car
Yes.
because
Oh
they
yeah.
look perfectly
I have
normal. You've had
Yeah.
that, Elizabeth?
At the time when I was using my walker, didn't have my wheelchair, and people thought it was just using the handicap space.
Yeah,
It was
I
like,
still get that.
What?
Yeah, they see some young, maybe healthy looking guy pulling into a spot that people are kind of ridiculous.
But you're right, Kyle, it's exposure. So
Yeah.
do we have any more? Let's tell some more stories. Let's expose people to these things.
This one story, I like you, Elizabeth. It probably wasn't funny to everybody else in the room, but at the time, I thought it was hilarious. Initially, when it happened, I was kind of appalled. I was in a courtroom for, I think, just a traffic ticket, and got to my name, and judge's like, "Sir, boy, can you stand up?"
boy,
There was a gasp over the courtroom. Somebody was like, he's in a wheelchair. Mm. I should have used that. I should have been like, I'll try to get up and then fall. Mm.
Did he quickly realize his mistake and
Yeah. He was like, oh my gosh. He was embarrassed.
Okay. I mean, yeah, the assumptions are, I guess it's the assumptions are hard to live with. And I think we can get pissed, which is a legitimate response, or we can laugh like Elizabeth does, maybe a little bit of a mix of both. Why do you think these memories stick with us, though? Like Elizabeth, when you have these mortifying / hilarious experiences, why do you think you remember them more than, an ordinary day at the coffee shop?
well,
Pretty unique.
I kind of like the fact that they were calling the cops on me. Because I thought, I live all the time in my office, don't see lots of people, and I figured that's kind of fun.
Little excitement. I'm surprised that none of the other passengers tried to step in and help out or point out that this is a catheter, but maybe no one was aware what was going on, but
Yeah, they knew, but I don't think they knew. I don't think people know catheters. I
maybe
didn't know
no.
catheters when before I became disabled. I
Mm.
didn't know. But the funniest story, for me, the most hysterical story that that I engaged in with my sister-in-law, who's about my age, and we were in Albuquerque, where my brother and my sister-in-law live, and we were at a restaurant, and I turned to her and said, "Would you mind helping me go to the bathroom?" Because I couldn't at that time. I was using a walker, and I didn't have the stability to use bathroom by myself. Because it's a big deal um, when you take your pants off, and you know all the balancing once your hands let go of the wheelchair. It's really kind of dicey. And so my sister-in-law said she'd love to. And so we went to the bathroom, and we're the only ones in the bathroom. And I guess we forgot to lock the door. I don't remember, there was no one there other than us. And if this is too R-rated, you can stop me. So um, Felice and I helped each other to take my pants down and underwear down so I could pee, and it was great. And then when we were over, I, I stood up and she helped balance me. We had the walker together. uh, Right to the left of me was the walker, and I grabbed the walker. Felice helped me pull up my pants, and then somehow I fell. Like, I mean, it was no big deal, and so we were on the floor, and then Felice was trying to pull up my pants when all of a sudden a woman came in, barged into the restroom, and she looked at us and she said, "That's disgusting." And, she
Jeez.
thought we were engaging in
Oh.
various sexual activities on the floor of the bathroom. And it was hysterical. We,
That is
we,
funny, actually. I like
we
that one.
laughed and laughed and laughed. I thought it was so funny. And only in MS would you end up on the floor. So I thought that was really funny.
What did she just turn around and leave, or did
Oh
she
yeah,
wait to,
she,
oh, she just got out of there?
she just let out the loudest disdainful comment. So we laughed so hard we were both crying. I mean, we love each other so much, and we thought, God, this is hysterical. So that was really funny.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
And my
that's
last,
a one to
that
write down, Elizabeth. Have you written that story?
no,
Oh man.
I'd
on
have
that
to do a better job describing the why we fell down, and that was hysterical. My other stories, and then
Okay.
I
Story time.
my other stories all involved when I used a walker, because I was very stubborn did not want to be in a wheelchair. So I went everywhere with my walker for a long time until I couldn't do it anymore and I had to submit to a wheelchair. But when I was at that time, I traveled a lot and I was at the San Francisco airport, the women's bathroom, and I was again taking my pants off to go to the bathroom, and I fell into the toilet bowl. And I had both hands inside the public restroom,
Oh,
and I thought it was hysterical. And I started laughing. And I think that other people in the restroom thought I must be such a weird woman who's laughing by herself in in the, in the stall. But I don't know why. I just think, think it's joyously ridiculous and
It's a great response. I love
it is. It
response
is.
to life. I mean, wow. Have you always been that way, even prior to MS? Like, do you remember embarrassing situations as a kid or at high school and you would laugh?
no, probably didn't.
Okay.
For me, it's like sometimes it isn't funny in the moment, but then I can like find perspective and laugh at things later, you know. But it
Yeah.
sounds like you're able to like really laugh. It's very therapeutic, laughter.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. But I also am struck by how like things can be multiple things at the same time. They can be sort of heartbreaking and sad and also funny and also angry making all at the same time.
Do you have any that I know Annie, you and I share a little bit more of the invisibility of our.
Yeah, so I don't have that many funny stories, but I also said I wasn't feeling funny today. It was just not a funny day for me. So I'm going to leave the funny to Elizabeth. I'd say like surprising, not surprising, but speaking of sort of the assumption piece
Yeah.
so I deal with that on the different way because I don't have
Yeah.
visible disabilities. So like sometimes when I will say to like someone finds out I have MS, I get often, but you look so fine. You seem fine. And even my own husband says that to me. I forget because you seem fine, which actually annoys me. It feels very dismissive. So I don't think that's funny, but it is surprising, right? That people don't consider all of the things that you can't see that might be physical, and also the emotional uncertainty that's a huge element of it. So there's the other story that came to my mind, again, not funny, but maybe a little funny, was trying to tell my kids about my diagnosis. And they were like, I had sort of held off on doing that for when they were really little. But then when they were around, like my two older ones, I think were like 9 and 11, and I had written an article that was getting published about this. So I thought, well, I don't want them to hear it from someone else. Anyway, so they were old enough to have a conversation, but it was just very funny the way it unfolded, because I sort of started saying, well, so I have a disease, and they were like, oh, you have a disease? Oh my gosh. And then it's like, I have an illness. You have an illness? Oh my God, what an illness? Like, no, I have a condition. Like I couldn't find the right word to try to make it like something that they could absorb without being completely freaked out. Because of course I was so nervous about making them worry about me, but those words are very loaded. Disease especially, that freaked them out. Illness also freaked them out. Condition doesn't really capture it. Anyway, so that was just interesting, surprising. 9 and 11, I think. So, old enough to understand that, but still didn't had trouble sort of thinking of their mom as having a disease. Just semantics, but you don't really think about how people absorb those things, and that's a whole nother long discussion of like telling your kids about a diagnosis. But mine were small at the time and I held it in for a long time. But anyway.
But it is different how family members respond, and how they, even your husband knew what it was, but still to this day sounds like he can sometimes dismissive or forget that it's, or I think for me, it's sort of the lack of consideration. I have a story that's not funny, but it was or maybe in the annoying, excruciating category, but it was, there was a 7-month period where I was living with my mother during the early second year of living with the mal de débarquement symptoms. And it was just, bringing me to my knees. And I felt very disabled and unable to really do much of anything, let alone I couldn't even look at my phone for a period of time. The brightness of the screen was just horrifying. And I was working my way up after sort of around month 5, living with my mother, to trying to say yes to a few things, like, yes, let's go over to my brother's house for a quiet dinner. And so I was having some successes with a few of those, and she decided that she was going to get tickets to a movie. And at this point, I wasn't even watching movies at the house. And I would lay on the floor literally with like headphones on and an eye bag over my eyes, and I would listen to the dialogue, in a real muffled way. But she decided she was going to get tickets for us to go to a movie. And I wanted to just be I wanted to be normal. I wanted to be normal so badly. So I was like, okay, let's go. And traditionally, my mother is always running about a half an hour late. So of course, she was, running late to the movie. And so there were no seats left. It was a small theater in Boulder, like an artsy film. And so we ended up having to sit in the front row.
Oh.
And
Perfect.
you can't adjust the volume, and the screen is giant. I mean, as soon as I stepped foot in that theater, my heart was pounding and I was sweating. My entire shirt was soaked. What did I do? I sat through the whole fucking 2-hour movie. And the movie was about horses. It was about like giant, galloping, loud, thunderous horses. And I was so pissed, of course, at myself now in hindsight, that I didn't say, see ya, I'm going to sit outside, and wait for you to be done. But at the time, I was just pissed that she didn't, consider that this might be challenging for your daughter who can't even watch, TV. But so not funny, but really frustrating, like that level of consideration with somebody that you live with, that sees how much of a struggle life is every day, and that they're still like, yeah, this will be fun.
Even though they see it, they're not aware of the effect on you, like how it's affecting you. And I mean, so it's so much of this that we experience all the time. It's still unfathomable to me. I'm still in disbelief 11 years into it. I'm like, so it's weird.
Do you, Kyle, are you living with someone right now?
Yeah, Jonathan and I live together.
So, and how is Jonathan? Like, he's had to learn some things.
Yeah, he's had to learn a lot. He has learned a lot. Oh, and like you, Annie, we had some of his family visit us over the holidays, and he's got a little 7-year-old nephew, Jameer, and he was my little buddy. But 7-year-olds, they don't really have a filter. He's like, why are you walking like that? I couldn't find the words to really articulate. I was like, it's a neurological condition. He's like, I think I said disease, or
yes, it's hard to explain, right?
But he was like, okay, let's go get biscuits.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other beautiful thing about kids, is they have no filter, but they don't care. They're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and
So much less
it didn't mean anything to him. I mean, we were hanging out the whole time. He was like, Kyle, show me how to be a man. Teach me how to build a fire.
That's so cute.
Like, okay, let's build a fire.
Awesome.
Elizabeth, I think I remember you talking once about, and this probably has happened multiple times, but being at your favorite coffee shop and having kids want to approach you, but then mothers sort of, protecting them. Do you have any specific memories about that?
Lots, because young kids love me. Love me. They love the wheelchair. They love the mechanics.
Yeah, it's so cool.
They say it's cool. Yeah. So I'm talking about outdoor seating at Whole Foods in my town. And I sit there when I get a drink, and lots of kids come up to me and, hey, I want to see this cool machine. How fast can you go on it? And I love that. I love. Do you love it too, Kyle?
Yeah. And now I have a fast wheelchair. I actually chose this wheelchair based on how fast it could go. I was like, sort wheelchairs based on top speed.
Oh, man. Be
and-
careful,
have
Kyle, be
places-
careful.
Do you have places that you take it that where you can go as fast as it can go? Like, do you go to track?
Yeah, we have a greenway around Asheville, right along the French Broad River. On a nice sunny today would have been great to take it out. But it's really nice to go out. Me and Jonathan go out, or me and some friends go out. And I learned the first time I put it on the fastest setting that I don't want to go that fast. That was scary. I was
Unless you wear
I
a
am going
helmet.
like
You gotta
30
wear a
miles per hour. It was kind of scary. But it's pretty
Have
cool.
you ever, this is from somebody who doesn't live in a wheelchair or hasn't experienced them. Yeah, do you ever have a sense that it's like it's got a mind of its own, or that it's out of control?
Yes, absolutely. When I got this wheelchair, I did not have the anti-tippers in the back, and me and some friends were out on the greenway that I was just talking about, and I had gotten far ahead of them, and I just turned around at this spot where there was a slight incline, and I kind of jerked a little fast, and I went over.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
And to me, that was funny. To the people watching it, they were horrified. I was like,
yeah.
oh, this is hilarious. This is another day in the wheelchair.
Oh
Isn't
my
it
God.
funny how you can find it hilarious?
Yeah.
I mean, like I found my challenges hilarious,
Yeah.
but we do. I guess we do.
It's taken some time to get there. I think when we first started MS Confidential, I frequently said how angry I was because of all of this. Luckily, I've been able to let so much of that anger go,
That's
Wow.
awesome.
and I feel so much lighter.
How were you able to do that?
Therapy,
Awesome.
just constantly noticing my thinking, and I don't know. Therapy has helped so much. I just went to therapy actually, and I was like, I don't want to be inside. It's gorgeous today. It's in January, and it's like 70 degrees in the mountains of Western North Carolina. That's abnormal.
That is abnormal.
So I said to my therapist, I was like, I don't want to go inside. She's like, let's go outside. Let's do this outside.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
it was cool. We just sat in the sun and talked, and it was great.
Wow. What an amazing perspective shift you've had over the last 12 months.
Yeah. Therapy and meditation. I have gotten off track of doing meditation consistently, and I can certainly notice how my mood shifts drastically when I don't keep up with that simple practice. But I've been keeping up with it twice a day, every day, and I seriously feel like a different person after I get done with one meditation.
Awesome.
I think that makes sense in this, my own personal experience with meditation, and from what I understand, would you say that it offers you a little bit of the ability to step outside of yourself and see your experience,
Yes.
maybe with neutrality, which would allow for it to not maybe grip us as much as like, oh, I can't believe this is happening, and maybe more like, wow, what a funny, weird experience I'm having.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, meditation definitely helps with that. And this book that I've read several times, and I'm reading it again right now. It's called Happiness by Matthew Ricard. There are a lot of Buddhist principles in it, and every time I read it, it hits me differently because I'm in a different chapter of my life. And currently it's just so even more profound than it's ever been, even though I've read these words probably 5, 6, 7 times. Great book. Highly recommend.
I'm gonna get it because that's the best kind of book that you can read over and over, and it hits you differently.
Yeah.
Kyle, would you put that in the chat? Would you be able to just like the
Yeah.
author so other people can?
Yeah, let me see. Chat.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. You guys were talking. I'm like, I'm going to jump in now to kind of throw off the, meditative Buddhist approach. I'm kind of like Annie and Kimberly, even though I don't have a chronic illness, I was thinking about this. So I have dysgraphia, dyslexia, and ADD. And I'll never forget my dad saying that's not possible. That can't be possible. And the reason why is like, well, you're so smart, as though they can't coexist. People who are living with things, whether it's a learning disability or a chronic illness or what have you. And I know this has happened to Elizabeth, so I'm not going to spill the beans, but acting like you're not like fully intelligent, or if you are fully intelligent, well, then you can't possibly have that. And actually, as a matter of fact, I had to change one of my ADD meds recently. And I was with a friend and wanted to meet up for a drink. And I'm like, okay, but I can't drink. And he was like, why? And I'm like, well, I just switched meds and it's not a good idea. He's like, meds for what? And I said, ADHD. And he's like, you don't have that.
Mind your business.
He's like, you don't know. He's like, you don't have that. I'm like, yes, I do. He's like, no, you don't. And I'm like, what? Like, it's such a surprising shot. And I knew like he was like, okay, whatever. And just kept like, and he's a very good friend of mine. So it was just like, he was not in the mood to discuss. I'm sure we'll discuss it again at some point. But I know, Elizabeth, you had something so that's my pet peeve, is that when I actually share something that people are dismissive.
Yeah.
And so I think Annie can definitely relate to that. So
yes, and the medical profession is like notorious for that. How many doctors have dismissed us? And I mean, I say that as a doctor, I try not to be dismissive, but I have met a lot of dismissive doctors, who are like, or just like think they know the answer. Oh, you don't have that, you have this, or whatever. I have
a God complex.
Yeah.
Or don't listen. So like I had a doctor who thought I was bipolar when I started to describe all my symptoms. And I'm like, and I asked my sister, I'm like, do you think I am? She's in health services. She's like, no. She's like, I would be able to see that. She's like, I've lived with you for so long. And so I had to tell my doctor, I'm like, I don't think that's it. I have a lot of anxiety that comes from these things, but no, I don't think I'm bipolar. It took a long time for me to like, you got to hear me. That's not what it is.
Yeah.
And so, but mostly I'm trying to learn how to let things go and not let them go.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like
Totally.
in the moment I let it go with my friend, but I don't want to let it go. Like I want to have a conversation about this.
Will you have a follow-up with him?
Oh yeah.
perhaps?
Oh yeah. But I'm just curious if you all have any insights. Have you learned anything about responding in a way that's productive?
I mean, I think just in general, like if you just, instead of making him feel like blamed or attacked, but just to say like how you felt, how that made you feel, to speak about
educate, don't belittle.
Yeah.
Well, have you had that experience where that worked for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
My
Surely.
movie theater experience with my mom, I ended up, she's got sometimes it takes a little bit of knocking, chiseling to get through to her, but I ended up, and I don't typically do this, but I blew up at her when we got home. And to my surprise, even, because it was just like, ugh, and it got through to her. It's like she almost needed, I mean, I remember seeing her jaw trembling because she was so shocked at what level of rage I had gone to very quickly. And it got through to her. And then, I was like scared by my own anger, and I went downstairs and then came back up 10 minutes later because I hated seeing her sad. And we apologized, or I apologized, and it was in it, but it really got through. So sometimes bringing that level of emotion to the people that we know we love and that love us can actually maybe work.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is the only way.
Yeah, no, I'm all for, I'm not afraid of having a confrontation or an emotional expression for sure. And to me, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to read into it, but I wonder if for you, Kimberly, it had just been building. Because like sitting in that theater, like that struck me. We all do that, right? I do it all the time, like still like things that are uncomfortable. And we should get up and be like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. I'm not going to do this. I've gotten better at that in my life. But even like when I've like had a massage in the past and I'm like, that really doesn't feel good, but I'm like too afraid to say to the massage therapist, I don't like that. Like, it's that kind of thing. It's like, what? Why do we do that? But yeah, yours is even more extreme. Like to sit there. I don't know what that is, that we don't want to hurt other people's feelings, or what is it? I don't know.
It's probably an old pattern,
Yeah.
It's years and years of just playing nice and no feeling that somehow is safer than acting out, but it's not in the long run. But you're right, it's a lifetime of playing nice.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that Elizabeth can relate to that because she wants to be the good patient. She said that lots of times. Which I know she's working on, but I know there is one thing that really irks her. And I'm just wondering, Elizabeth, you can share that about people talking to not you.
My voice is lacking volume because of my MS and my diaphragm. So I'm very soft, and people, not all people, but a number of people respond and talk really loud to me as if I have no problems with my hearing. Of all things with MS, hearing has not been involved. And so when you have people screaming, yes, have a nice day, or whatever, or they talk to my caregiver and they say, well, what's she here for? What do you think she would want to do? And I'd say, I'm here.
Hello.
Yeah. But it often comes off as maybe she's retarded or low IQ. So I feel.
Have you ever blown up at a doctor?
No.
No. You just blow up afterwards.
I have blown up with United Airlines because the last time it took a plane, was visiting my grandson, and when on the way back, I was on the aisle chair, that wheelchair that's made for the airlines, and they took me back. They, meaning the personnel of the airlines, exited me from the airlines, and the people, they're subcontracted by the airlines. The crew that comes in at the end to take over people in wheelchairs. And this woman took me really quickly up the entire plane and knocked my legs on every seat.
Mm.
And it really, I think I have some maybe permanent damage from there because I huge swelling on my knees. It was really painful.
Oh, that's
And
awful.
I kept saying, she kept saying to me, well, move your legs. Just move your legs. I said,
Listen, bitch.
and I said, I'm a quadriplegic. And I think she had no idea what that was. I said, I can't move my legs.
Oh,
You
that's
know?
outrageous. So you got angry at them, I hope, right? At the airline,
Sorry?
so you got angry with, did you report that to the airline?
I did, but to no effect.
Oh, unbelievable.
I
Sorry, I had an alarm going off.
Yeah.
They were more concerned.
No follow-up from management or anything.
I was with Elizabeth and we drafted the email and helped her husband write it. And they were more concerned about like did she want to make a claim? And that was not Elizabeth's intention, right? Elizabeth, she was like, I'll offer to train, I just want them. Yeah.
I would like to have a training for staff on catheters and what it means to be a quadriplegic, meaning you can't move your legs or arms. And obviously they've never had that training. And I said, if you would let me train employees, I'd be so delighted. But no response.
Elizabeth, I just listened to an interview with Richard Branson. I didn't know he actually kind of a cool guy, and JetBlue. He might be more like, I think it's a fabulous idea. Maybe we should look at seeing if we could get Richard Branson or his son to get on board with something like this, because I think it's a great idea. Does JetBlue fly out of San Francisco?
I think so.
I don't know if they do. They may fly out of Oakland.
Okay. Well,
I know they fly out of somewhere in California for sure.
But that kind of training could go a really long way.
Right.
Yeah. Do they think disabled people don't travel?
Right. I'm surprised that training isn't even, I would like to know what their training is. I would imagine it's similar to what like Annie in med school you got on like nutrition.
Yeah. Well, right. And as we've talked about in past episodes, like doctors don't even get great training on how to manage disabled people who come into the office and need extra care or have a wheelchair that needs to get into a space. Yeah, so it's terrible. That's where it should be. Really, we should get the training in medicine, but we don't.
Well, and that explains, as you all know, Elizabeth's, dedication to talk to as many medical students and nursing students and physical
Really
therapy students to let them know.
Yeah.
So.
What if we did it? Here we go. We're just problem solving live. But what if we did an episode about like, let's do an episode for flight attendants, restaurant staff, like kind of globalize it and run the gamut through the list of things that we would like them to know. And then we could submit something at least, and then that might open up the conversation to deeper conversations. But at least it would be something to start with that we could send out.
I would love that.
Okay.
I think that's brilliant because, and you all know better than people who train or the people who write curriculum or training manuals, Yeah. I think that's really, I love this idea.
Yes, I
love it too.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that the details.
I'm just shocked how many people in the airline industry don't have any idea what being a quadriplegic means, or what does it mean to have a catheter.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Who raised you people? Did you go to school? Any school?
Because people, I never met people who are quadriplegic.
I never met anybody that was quadriplegic for many years in my life, but I knew what it fucking meant. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. And we could devote it to, we could do 2 episodes, one for visible illnesses, visible disabilities, and one for invisible, because I know I'm thinking of some people that have had horrifying experiences on airplanes, in restaurants that and have invisible disorders that needed assistance and were refused because they look normal. So yeah.
I like it.
Well, guys, I think this has been a really fun conversation
yeah.
and fruitful.
I think it's great. I think we could go, at least I could go on for another 2 hours.
Well, you have so many
With your
stories,
funny
Elizabeth.
I love it. Well, I do think it's very healthy to have that. I was thinking of like the Dalai Lama, who seems to always be laughing and happy. But I also was like thinking about anger too, with talking about it with you, Kyle, and like there is sometimes anger can be empowering, right? There can be a positive phase of anger, but I'm really glad then you have to let it go. So it's like huge that you've been able to let that go. But I think that sometimes, like for me, like I can't always go to laughter right away, because sometimes I feel like I need to go through the feeling the frustration. I don't know, anger can feel more empowering than sadness, but I don't know, how does the Dalai Lama do it? He must get angry. Do you think the Dalai Lama gets angry?
Oh, he gets pissed. Yeah.
I think I did read somewhere where he did have an episode and he admitted that he had an episode of anger, but like it was very short-lived. He feels it, he just doesn't act on it, or he transforms the way he's feeling. But it's so funny because when Elizabeth and I were talking, I was at her house the other day and we're going through the list of, biggest thing to do to irritate you, biggest thing that surprised you with your diagnosis, biggest thing that made you laugh. And everything that I said, she's like, well, I think it's funny. Everything she did was like, I'm like, that doesn't seem funny to me. She's like, I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, okay.
That's awesome.
But it is interesting, Elizabeth, that you weren't always this way, that somehow your experience with MS made you this way. Because like you said, you didn't laugh at these situations.
I didn't have many. I never fell in a toilet bowl before. It was my first experience.
Yeah, do you think it's that it just like the absurdity becomes too much and then you're just like, what are you going to do except laugh?
Right,
I don't
know. Although I was angry at the airlines.
Legitimately so.
Because I think I have maybe permanent knee damage.
Yeah.
As it goes on, then I get angry.
Yeah.
And that's just thoughtless. It's like, even if they don't know what quadriplegic means, if you're saying, ow, that hurts.
Yeah.
That should be enough.
You know what that means, I hope.
I hope so. Or
But it was the woman who this was didn't look at my face and say, this hurting. She was under incredible pressure to get the plane cleared so the next plane could take off. So I feel very sympathetic to the woman.
that's very compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's very Dalai Lama-like.
Yeah, it is.
I'm thinking that
Elizabeth does that a lot, and sometimes I just like, no.
Very nice, but I think that is maybe an important step to finding things humorous, is to be able to find that compassion for other people, that maybe they're doing the best they can, and that not to take it so personally. I don't know. And
I think that has been a big part of it for me, letting anger go.
Yeah.
Yeah, finding compassion and empathy. But
like you said, Annie, maybe first start not dismissing yourself, like those feelings. If the first
Be
feeling is
pissed
anger,
off.
let the anger be there, so you're
Yeah.
not like squishing yourself in the process. And then maybe think about, oh, this person might not know or might be doing their best. And then maybe get the Dalai Lama perspective of, oh, what a weird situation. But starting
Yeah.
first,
He
start with
wasn't always like this.
No, he had to work at it.
It
We all
took
need
some
to just
time.
meditate more, I think.
That's right. That's going to be me in however many years.
yeah, well. Well, you
I
guys,
just
you know
wanna
what? I
say-
missed the Richard Branson is Virgin, not JetBlue. I don't know why I put those two together, but anyway.
Well, I thought maybe he bought JetBlue. I was like, Virgin. I'm like, did he buy
I went
JetBlue
along
too?
with it.
I was like, who's Richard Branson? So I
Kimberly, I just want to say I'm not toxically positive all
Oh,
the
no.
time.
we know that. We know.
Oh, not at all. You don't come across that way, Elizabeth. You don't.
You come
No.
across like the Dalai Lama, okay?
Yeah.
There couldn't be a better compliment. No, but you call it out when something's bullshit and you're pissed. I've seen it.
So
I
does
like
he.
it. Yeah.
Dolly-
Lama doesn't play no
Dolly
show.
Jameson. Let's call it Dolly Jameson from and spell it Dolly.
That's right.
Well, you guys, we are at almost
Yeah.
the mark.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you. What a fun, I feel a little bit better than I did an hour ago. Thank you
Yeah.
for the conversation. And thank you for anybody who's been listening or who will listen next month or the month after. Not sure, we got to figure out the details, but definitely we will be addressing service staff and others in the world,
Great.
sharing our tips. And thanks, Lisa, for joining in today. That
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah, you're a
like
good
it.
addition.
I have a little imposter syndrome when I join you all, but
You shouldn't.
No,
we all
not at
do.
We talk about that all the time.
All right, you guys, go everyone. If you want, go to Jameson Fine Art and watch all the other previous episodes. So many good conversations over there. So love you all.